Hi! Welcome back. Today we're covering Teens, Time Loops, and Total Chaos by Rae of Frost, Chapter 3. Chapter 3, The 5 Stages of Going Off the Rails. Round 13, Denial. Is a river in Egypt. Hitoshi snuggled into the center of the nest surrounding the electronics center. It was the unholy hour of 3 a.m., Hitoshi's favorite. The room was gloriously quiet and empty. Of all the consoles at his disposal, the ancient pre-Quirk handheld console hybrid was his favorite. He placed the device into its dock and booted up his favorite game. It was a simple game where you run a small island village. Ooh, is that Animal Crossing? Hitoshi groaned. Izuku's quirk ghosts didn't need to sleep, and while most of them knew to leave him alone, N, 6th, liked to follow Hitoshi around. The ghost claimed that they were kindred spirits, something about Hitoshi being the only sane person he knows, which is bullshit. Hitoshi is also insane, he's just quieter about it. So, what are you gonna do if we get out of this time loop thing? And asked. It's not when, it's if, a voice interjected from the opposite corner of the common space. It was Izuku, who was probably up all night trying to keep his quirk ghosts in check. Speaking of quirk ghosts, 3 of them were hovering around him and arguing quietly about the validity of pineapple on pizza. Was Hitoshi's eloquent answer. It was a little jarring getting used to the random dead people that constantly bothered his green-haired classmate. After letting his mind reboot for a moment, he came up with an actual answer. I would probably be a second-year hero student, then a third-year hero student, and then finally an underground pro hero. Makes sense, Anne replied. Another round, another first semester midterm, Tenya, the forever class prez, declared with his signature arm chops. We've done those 12 times already. Why can't we just skip it for once? Mina whined. This could be the final time loop, and any loop could be the last. That is why we must always treat each new round as our last. If we keep doing the same thing over and over again, nothing will change. You must remain calm, Mina. I'm sure the loops will resolve themselves soon. Class 1A went through loop after loop. Every new round was treated like it was their last, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Round 22. Anger. The USJ. I can't take it anymore! Coda yelled. It wasn't the first time one of the students yelled their complaints about their situation. It wasn't even the most intense of the screamed frustrations. Maybe what made it so jarring was how the announcement came from the class's quietest, most docile member. Perhaps it was the rising tension slowly building over the past few rounds. Maybe it was both. The villains of the USJ watched in abject horror as what was supposed to be a group of brand new hero students started to riot. The students howled and yelled with unbridled rage. They could only be described as feral. They collectively snapped and decided to take it out on the nearest entities, also known as the League of Villains. Breaking news! UA's Class 1A goes feral. 63 villains captured, 45 injured. No hero or student casualties. Opinion. What does Class 1A's aggressive attitude mean for the future of heroics? Heroes daily. Class 1A takes extreme measures against small-time villain organization. Tokyo Times. Hero students go on a 28-hour vigilante spree. Breaking news! Class 1A takes down Yakuza group in an extreme act of vigilantism. The hero's mirror. The new generation of heroes is here, and they don't want to wait till graduation. Hitoshi turned off his phone and sighed. The class collectively acknowledged they weren't getting out of the time loop anytime soon, and their first response was to go nuts and take out every villain they've ever encountered in their loops, all at once. Now they were wanted for 82 counts of vigilantism each, and Shoto was an accessory to all of their crimes. They would have to wait out the rest of their loop in the in their bunker. Nobody could find them in the vents. Round 22. Depression. Completely removing themselves from the outside world proved more difficult than any of them could imagine. It took a major toll on their mental health. Not like it was doing well to begin with. The end was far from view, and spending over 20 years as a 15-year-old was far from helpful. It felt like all hope was lost. All there was despair. Round 23. Depression. Still. The weekly circle talk stopped as most of the class retreated in their own self-pity. They still came together at the beginning of the round to create their base, but dread and hopelessness permeated through the time travelers. Only time could heal the pain of their unique type of isolation. Round 31. Bargaining. If we ever get out of this, I'll never throw myself into danger without thinking again, Izuku declared. Wow, isn't that half your shtick, though? Honda retorted. Although, I'll add to that by getting up for my alarm in the mornings. I'll refrain from being, and I quote, too uptight, Tenya added with a hand chop. Hitoshi and Jiro sat quietly in the kitchen, eating a snack as the last of the class was moving on from their stupor and returning to their chaotic selves, bringing an end to the almost decade of silence. How much do you want to bet that not one of them will stick to their vows? Jiro muttered. I don't think they'll get the chance to make good on them. We're never getting out of this, Hitoshi replied. He received a simple nod as a response. $50, and added out of nowhere. Hitoshi and Jiro gave him a side-eye. It was a rhetorical question. Round 52. After much drama and a few experiments, courtesy of Yaomomo and Izuku, Class 1A had finally reached a conclusion on their situation. Shoto rolled a corkboard in front of the TV as most of the class found their places in the nest of blankets and beanbags. Okay, the dual-haired teen began. With the help of Izuku and Momo, I have reached a thesis. The class waited with bated breath. After learning about social cues, the class found that Shoto had a good eye for finding unusual patterns, and his random conspiracies usually had a good amount of weight behind them. There is no way to stop the time loops, and they aren't stopping anytime soon. This only confirmed what all of them had been dreading. They would be stuck as first years. Permanently. So, Izuku called for everyone's attention. Let's go over the facts. The loops reset every 147 days at 11:59 p.m. All injuries acquired during the loop are reversed, with the exception of scars. Note, this may reverse fatal injuries, paralyzation, or even death, yet to be tested. Anything on your person when the loop is reset is sent back with you. All students of UA Hero Class 1A and their homeroom teacher are grouped together for the loops. Note, this may extend to teaching assistants as well, yet to be tested. Removal from Class 1A without being returned by the end of the round will result in the removal from the loop and subsequent loss of memories of the previous rounds. There is seemingly no cause for the loop, nor is there any way to stop it. The loops are most likely infinite. The only thing that has the potential to stick is death, Sue whispered. And even then, we have no idea if it will stick, Dinky added. No consequences, Hanta murmured. Only death, and even that's tenuous. Holy fuck. Holy fuck indeed. So, yep, and that's also all I've got for this. Man, I am catching up to all the stuff that I have written. Oh dear. I mean, I've got a warped repeat of history that I can start recording, but, like, I only have 3 chapters out of that, too. So, wow. Anyway, we've got... So, the thing with Teens Time Loops and Total Chaos is that I kind of made it to be this fun little episodic thing where, at least now that I've established the foundations for the story moving on, each chapter will be like their own little adventure that spans 1, maybe 2. It pretty much every new time loop adventure gets its own chapter. So, like, the next one's about espionage, and it takes the place over a couple loops, I want to say. Yeah, I think I'm gonna make it go over the course of a couple loops where they, do espionage and stuff. And then, so if you've got any ideas on fun little time loop things they can do, like fun little time loop adventures that they can do, then I'd love to hear them, because I don't have too many plans with this series. It's going to be episodic, so it's probably never really going to be complete. It's just going to be me adding more stuff to it over the course of time, which means it might be pretty slow to update depending on how many other works I have going at the same time, or whether or not I run out of ideas to throw at it. Like, eventually, it's going to get to the point where they've gone through the loops so many times, they have pretty much every single possibility memorized. But that's going to take a while, so I can't use those kinds of ideas until later. But, I mean, I've got another one where they decide to, just decide to say, to heck with it, and, run a restaurant. And then I have another one where they, say to heck with it again, and then they work as vigilantes, and then I have pretty much all of them are they say to heck with it and then proceed to do something that you would never expect a group of hero class students to do. And then I was kind of foreshadowing a couple things, specifically with the teacher's aid one, because I'm like a sucker for fics where they're like, yes, Kirigiri was Oboro was Kirigiri, but now he's Oboro again, and you get to deal with that now. Yay! So yeah. You can kind of guess where that's gonna go. And then the other thing with foreshadowing how, injuries and stuff might not be permanent, yeah, it's not tested yet, but it's pretty much confirmed, not even death is gonna kill these guys. They're fine. As long as Nezu doesn't unenroll them from Class 1A, they're good. And Nezu's in on the whole thing, so of course he's not gonna unenroll them. They'll be fine. And then the idea of them all being a bunch of vent gremlins, I just love. This is definitely a comedy series, or at least I hope it is. I mean, this is definitely probably the heaviest episode because it was kind of like them going through pseudo 5 stages of grief. Like, the fact that they're never going to become pro heroes and just stay 15-year-olds forever. You know? They were kind of grieving the fact that they'll never get to grow up and they'll never get to become fully fledged pro heroes. And they're just kind of going to be stuck in infinite high school hell. This is a very, very short video compared to the one I just recorded before this. Oh dear. Oh dear. Couple other things I've got going. So I've got, of course, A Warped Repeat of History, which is the full series with Hitoshi as a demon and Zuko as a demon slayer for that crossover. I've got a few chapters of that put out, but I have yet to update that because I'm working on other things I'm doing. I have another series because I love the Hero Class Civil Warfare type fics, so I wanted to do my own. And I decided that the way I'm writing it means that it can when I'm done writing it, I can segue it into like an underground heroics course fic, and that will be fun too. So that I've got high hopes for this one. I call it Summoning the Eldritch Heroes because I make Izuku like one with the Eldritch Horrors. It's great. I wrote an entire I wrote an actual rules manual for it. It's 5 pages long. I have a 5-page long I've got a 5-page long manual that I wrote. I wrote a rules and regulations manual. And of course I left it open to adding more and stuff. It's ridiculous. And then there's the other thing of me having to come up with 30 completely new Hero Course students because there's no way we can have we need more characters because we need some extra Hero Course students with the way that I wrote it, because it's like Izuku and a few other kids versus a bunch of second years, and or I guess they'd be third years by the time of so it's a bunch. So we've got 3 of them. We have Lemillion, Sun Eater, and Nejire. We have Mirio, Amajiki, and Nejire, and then 30 completely new characters that are their age that I don't have that I only have hero names for because I could not be bothered to make 30 civilian names. If I come up with a civilian name for them, I'll add them to the list, but yikes. And then I don't have quirks for them, but it's not hard to make quirks for characters based off the names I gave them. For example, I've got one guy who's called the Nicomancer, and it's pretty obvious to tell what their quirk would probably do with a name like Nicomancer. They summon an army of undead cats or something along the lines, or they're just a skeletal cat or something. It obviously has something to do with necromancers and cats. That's easy. Or one Coconut Man. Or Jumper. I came up with really basic freaking names. Or Zapper. electricity quirk. Done. No, but look, who the hell writes a 5-page rule list for a fanfiction? I do. And then, yeah, and then I've got the one, because it's like I'm writing a book. I've been writing a book for like 3 years, and I only really write fanfiction as just like an extra thing, because I come up with random ass shit that I want to write. And if I don't write down the random ass shit that I want to write, I can't focus on my main writing project. Hence why it's taken me 3 years to get 15 chapters into the book that I'm writing. Even though I've written 25 chapters for What If Deku was part of the assassination class, and we're just not gonna mention that. It's way easier to write more chapters for stuff that's based off of other things, when you're not the one doing all of the world and character building. Like, it's way easier to write hundreds of pages. But I decided to write a fanfiction that's a crossover with the book series that I'm writing, but I don't think I'm going to be putting out that fanfiction anytime soon. It's interesting, but because it's a crossover with the book I'm writing, it's technically just me having a shit ton of OCs in My Hero Academia and calling it a day. Which is what I'm doing for the Civil Warfare one anyway, but that's besides the point. I'm not going to mention the fact that a lot of the named characters that I have in that fanfiction are just adaptations of characters from my book series. We're just not going to mention that. It's so easy to throw in random OC. It's like, hey, we need to have a nondescript character that's not part of the show. Let's just throw in a character that you already came up with because you're writing a book about them. I do this a lot. So most, if not all of the OCs that are encountered in any of the fanfictions I write are from my book series, because it's just easier that way. I don't know if I have any, like, I don't really like putting OCs in fanfictions, because, like, usually people are like, oh, that makes no sense, you're just making them overpowered, or blah, 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 or some shit. Like, yeah. I mean, but I am rambling all the shit, and I'm probably gonna cut out most of this. But, like, have a nice night. Bye.